I'm Rachel O'Mara, and I'm really excited today to introduce our guest speaker at Google, Robert MacPhee. So a little bit about Robert before we get started. Robert is a speaker, author, coach, and consultant. His mission is to help people connect in the world of constant change. He is the author of the book Manifesting for Non-Gurus, and we have some of those here for later. And he also has a book and companion journal for it about how to quickly and easily attract lasting results. He's the former director of training for Jack Canfield. Jack, if you've heard of him, he's the co-creator of a book you may have heard of, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and all those books in the series, and also the author of the book, The Success Principles. So he knows his stuff. He's also a founding member of the Transformational Leadership Council, a group of the world's leading authorities in personal and professional development. So without further ado, please welcome Robert.
Thank you, everyone. I am thrilled to be here. I knew last night I was going to be thrilled to be here, but I didn't realize how thrilled until I actually flew in this morning. I live in San Diego, and I flew in early this morning, and I realized while I was driving here that you guys have made my life so easy. I just really connected while I was driving in traffic on the 101. This is my opportunity to give back to you and maybe make your lives a little bit easier too, because I was jumping off the plane, Googling something about my rental car company, and then I was using my Google Maps to get from where I needed to be to here. And you guys just make my life so easy. So I really am thrilled at the opportunity to share some things today with you that I think will make your lives easier as well. Will that be okay? All right. So we're going to go through some things today relatively quickly. And I want to just set the stage really quickly for how we're going to do that. What we're going to do today is going to be focused on creating results, but also on creating the experience of life that you want to be having. When I looked at my work and how I could really deliver something that would be valuable for you, it seems to me that based on the nature of this company and what's going on here and how quickly things are moving and how the amazing things that are happening here, it's probably not so much about creating results as it is making sure the results you're creating are really in alignment with the experience that you want to be having. So we're going to focus on both of those. And as we get started here today, I would just invite you to kind of put this conversation into context, to think about your own life, your own work, maybe the team that you're on, and just think about what kind of new results, what kind of new experience do you want to be creating so that you can take what we talk about today and just put it into that context. Because my intention is by the end of the day today, or the end of our hour together today, you'll be in a position to do some things a little bit differently in order to create the results you want more quickly, more easily, and to have those results really be lasting. So again, one of the things I'm going to focus on today is the fact that this can affect you personally. What we're going to go through, what we're going to talk about today, you could definitely apply it personally in your own life, in your own position, in your own role, but it can also affect your team. So if you're a member of a team, if you're a leader of a team, I would also invite you to just look at what we're going to talk about today through that lens of how can this help my team, okay? And then I want to ask your permission on two things. One, is it okay if we go fast today? You guys are fast, right? This is what this company's all about, is fast, right? Because I really do have a lot that I want to share with you in an hour. So just to let you know, I am going to go quickly. And the other thing, if it's okay with you, or it's okay, it's lunchtime, can we have a little fun? Okay? Did you notice on that first slide I shared at the bottom, there was a thing about the YouTube week. There's like some humor thing going on this week, and it says, this had better be funny. So that's kind of the motto, this had better be funny. One of the things we've learned is that you actually learn more effectively when things are fun, when there's laughter and fun involved. So I told you it's going to be about results and experience. It's also going to be focused on practical and implementable. I want what we share today to be something that you can literally put into action and put into use right away. The title of today's presentation is Mastering the Art of Living a Purpose-Driven Life. And again, we're going to focus on purpose, but I want to start with that first word, mastery. And by mastery, I mean attracting the results we want quickly and easily. You all know the people who do this. They just make it look easy. Things happen. They always have the resources that they need. Things are easy and effortless for them. That's the result we're looking for. And I'm going to add one other word in there, which is I want to help you do this in a way that those results last. So it's not just a one-shot deal. So did everyone get 2 wine corks on your chair? Okay? So I'm going to ask 2 things. One, can I have maybe 4 volunteers who would be willing to come up to the front of the room with your wine corks? And I'm going to ask everyone to set down your things and stand up with your wine cork. So can I get 4 brave volunteers who would be willing to just come up, 2 on each side of me. And I'm going to demonstrate mastery for you. I'm going to give you all the opportunity. If you would, just set your stuff down, stand up with your wine corks. Okay, so we have 4 brave volunteers. Let's hear it for our volunteers. They have no idea how brave they really are right now, okay? So I'm actually going to pull a chair. This is probably an OSHA violation, but this will help you guys who are further back. What I'm going to ask them to do, and you're all going to do this with me, is you're going to take your 2 wine corks just like this, between your thumb and your forefinger. Can you all see that? Okay? And then you're going to take them apart just like that. Okay? So I'll show you guys this. It's hard for you to see. You're going to start like this, and you're just going to take them apart like that. Okay? So we start like this, and we take them apart like that. All right? You start like this, and you just take them apart like that. Okay, so everyone was able to do that, no problem? Yep. By show of hands, how many of you were able to do that? 1, 2, 3. Okay, you might have gotten the left-handed corks, so you might need to switch them from one hand to the other. Okay, so can you see that I've mastered this? Okay, we're talking about mastery, right? Of all the things I could have mastered, I picked this, right? But you can see that I've mastered it. But like many things, when you try to do it the first time, maybe it wasn't quite as easy as it looked. How many of you got to this spot right here? Right? And how did that feel? Just give me some words to describe how that feels. Stuck? Frustrating. Frustrating? Silly? Okay. So is that how we feel when someone comes in and says, oh, it's easy. They come into your office, they show you how to do something, it's easy. You just hit enter and it's done. And you go, you know. But then when you try and do it yourself, you have this experience, right? So for my 4 brave volunteers up here and for you guys, what do you need from me to take your next step towards being able to master this silly skill? What would be helpful?
Show it to us slowly. Instructions.
Show it to us slowly. See, now this is one of the interesting things that we see about this metaphor. The women always say 2 things. One is, do it slowly. And the other one is, do it again. So I'm just saying, this may be a metaphor for more than just the mastery thing that we're talking about here. But anyway, men usually have a completely different response. But better instruction, would that be helpful? Okay. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'll stand up here again so you can see. Take your thumb from one hand and put it on the palm end of the cork, the end of the cork that faces your palm. Now bring your other thumb around so it's also on the palm end. Make sure it's on the palm end. And once you have your thumbs in place, just reach over and under. Sometimes it's easier with your middle finger, and they should come right apart. Did you get it? Got it? Get it? Okay. So by show of hands, with a little bit better instruction, how many of you were able to get it that time? Okay, so most of the room. Now, the rest of you, I'm going to ask you a favor. Please don't leave here today without knowing how to do this. Because I came here to help, to support, to make friends. I don't want anyone walking out of here going, that was the stupidest thing I ever went. Okay? But here's the thing. You've had the experience now. Have you mastered this? For those of you who have done it, have you mastered it? Not quite mastery, right? You can do it. You know how it works. It's still a little awkward. It's still a little uncomfortable. But I believe there are 4 things. You guys can go ahead and have a seat if you want. Actually, everyone can have a seat if you want. I believe there are 4 things we always need to be willing to do in order to achieve mastery. And you guys already were willing to do a couple of them. Okay? The first thing we need to be willing to do is try something new. So here comes this crazy guy from San Diego. He puts 2 wine corks on everyone's chair. You have no idea what this is about, but you're willing to pick up the corks and give it a try, right? Simple as that might seem, you're willing to do that. Number 2 is you're willing to ask for help. Now, could you have figured this out on your own? Maybe. You guys, pretty smart group. I'm going to tell you, I believe you could have figured it out on your own. Okay? There's only so many fingers, there's only so many ends of the corks. You could have figured it out. But would it have taken longer? And can you get it done more quickly and easily by asking for help, getting some instruction from someone who knows how to do it? Right? The third thing is be willing to be uncomfortable. In order to really master anything, We have to be willing to be uncomfortable. Did I make you a little uncomfortable? Especially the 4 of you who were brave enough to come up to the front of the room, right? Not only can you not do it, how many of you did that thing where you kind of look to the left, look to the right, and see if you're the only one who can't do it, right? But it's a little uncomfortable. It's a little awkward. And that is the case whenever we try something new. And then why is it so easy for me?
Practice.
What's that?
Practice.
Practice, right? Thank you. Sometimes people say, you must drink a lot of wine. But that's not it. Of all the skills I could have mastered, this is the one. I learned this years ago, and I saw the metaphor in it. I had that physiological experience of what it's like to be uncomfortable. And when we're uncomfortable, what do we do a lot of times? Go right back to what we were doing before, right? So the 4th thing that you need to be willing to do in order to achieve mastery is be willing to do it repeatedly. Practice, practice, practice. And any of you, whether it's this silly little cork trick, or whether it's a skill at work, or a skill in a relationship, or mastering health and fitness, whatever it might be, if you're willing to try something new, if you are willing to ask for help, if you're willing to be uncomfortable, and if you're willing to do it persistently, you can absolutely achieve mastery. So today, when we're looking at mastering living a purpose-driven life, that's what I mean, being willing to do all 4 of those things. So of those 4 things, what do you think would be the most difficult? Which would be the hardest one?
Yeah.
What's that?
Be uncomfortable.
Be uncomfortable?
For me, I think it would be number 4, practice.
Practice, practice, practice. It's different for different people. But I'm going to put this out as a possibility. I believe number 3, the willingness to be uncomfortable, is the one that gets more people stuck than any other. The willingness to get outside of our comfort zone, to stretch, to do something different, to risk, the response of other people. And if you look at the other 3 and ask yourself, why aren't people willing to try something new? Often it's because it's uncomfortable. Why aren't people willing to ask for help? It's often because it's uncomfortable. And why aren't people willing to do something repeatedly? It's because it's uncomfortable. So the next thing I want to take a look at is this issue of being uncomfortable. What does it really mean? How many of you have ever had someone say, you need to get out of your comfort zone? You could do more, you could expand yourself if you were just willing to get out of your comfort zone. And it sounds good, right? But what the heck does that even mean? Like, how do we know if we're outside of our comfort zone? What is that all about? So I want to share a model with you that zeroes in on this issue of being uncomfortable. Okay? And most of the time, what makes us uncomfortable is change. So I'm going to ask you to do something else here. I'm going to ask you all to take your hands and just put them together like this. Okay, and look down at your hands and notice which thumb is on top. Just notice which thumb is on top. Now, how many of you had your right thumb on top? And how many of you had your left thumb on top? Okay, and did we have anybody, sometimes we have people who kind of layer them like right next to each other. Do we have any of those? Okay. So for those of you who had your right thumb on top, what that means is that you're a thinker. All right, you're an analytical, kind of a think it all through, go through all the steps kind of a person, right? If your left thumb was on top, that means you're sexy. Okay? And if you were that rare person who has their thumbs right next to each other, that means you think you're sexy. No, actually, that's totally made up. But take your hands like this and put them together just like we did before. Notice which thumb's on top. Same thumb or different thumb? Same one, right? Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to take your hands and take them apart and move all of your fingers. Don't just move your thumbs, move all of your fingers so your other thumb is on top. And how does that feel? Strange, weird, uncomfortable, different, right? What do you want to do? Put them back the other way, right? Okay. Okay. I believe in this simple little metaphor is why most people don't achieve what they really want to achieve. They'd rather go back to being comfortable. Now, what would happen if we just held our hands in this new position for maybe 10 minutes? It would become comfortable. It actually becomes comfortable if we're willing to do that, right? So this is what we mean by getting outside of our comfort zone, being uncomfortable. It's just that willingness to do that. So I'm going to share a 4-part model with you that's going to take a look at comfort zone. And I already asked you to consider what kind of result you want to create in your life, what kind of new result, what kind of new outcome you want to create. So as we go through this, I'm going to encourage you to look at it again through that filter, that lens of what you want to create, what's important to you. So it's going to start with results. We're going to start with the lower right-hand corner of this diagram with results. And we're going to look at what goes on that leads to creating new results in our lives. Now, what has to happen before any new result is going to happen? What do we have to do before any result is going to show up, any new result?
Take action.
What's that?
Take action.
Take action. Okay. So I have a copy of my book here, and it is signed. Good. And I'm going to give you a signed copy of my book for two reasons. One is because that is, in fact, the word that I was looking for, that we have to take action before we're going to get any new results. And the other reason I'm sharing a book is because it's lunchtime, you guys have been working hard, it's the middle of the day, and you're thinking, wait a minute, he asked a question, she answered the question, she got a free book. Next time he asks a question, maybe I should answer the question, right? So just going to kind of try and keep you engaged here. But isn't it true, in order to create results, we have to get into action? Now, I wrote this book. It's called Manifesting for Non-Gurus. And I normally don't even use the word manifesting in a corporate environment because it has me back out on the street really quickly. Because manifesting has this vision, right? I'm just going to sit at home, I'm going to be on my couch, I'm going to hold my hands in the right way and put on the right music and light the right number of candles, and all my dreams are going to come true. But in my experience with manifesting, that's not it at all. It absolutely has to come from taking action, taking what I call inspired action. So here's where it gets a little tricky. What comes before any action that we take? What precedes any action that we take? You're ineligible. You already have a book. It sounds like she may have already read the book. Now, I've got two people back here raising their hands. How cool is that? What was the answer? Have to really think about it. All right. So I can't do my Tony Robbins, like, charge up the aisle. Can you guys pass that book back there? Okay, and again, thank you. Thoughts. Before any action we take, there's always some thinking. Sometimes it's very well thought out, very methodical, very orchestrated. We all think it all through. And other times, how many of you have ever said the words, what was I thinking? Right? What was I thinking before I did that? But there's always some thought. And have you noticed that we think in pictures? Right? We think in imagery. So the next, as we go through this, is to think, well, what leads to the thoughts we think? What is it that's putting these images in our minds that are dictating the actions we take and the results we get? Observation. Desire. Emotion. What's that? Stimulus. Problems. Experiences. Okay, so this could be like a whole hour-long workshop in and of itself. And I'm sorry to say there's no free book here, because the reality is there's so many different things that are creating the images that we hold in our minds. And I'm going to lump a bunch of them into a category that I call external influences. External influences, okay? This is your boss, this is the media, this is the internet, this is the television, the radio, the newspaper, the magazines, the billboards, your friends, your family, your coworkers, all are bombarding us with these external influences that in some cases people are letting dictate the way they think, the way they act, and the results that they're getting. See how that works? So there's got to be a better way, right? Because we don't want those external influences to be running our lives. And this is where we connect into the real central theme of today about purpose. Because the one thing that probably has more influence than anything else on the thoughts we think, the actions we take, and the results we get is our beliefs about who we are. Our I am beliefs. And when we allow our beliefs about who we are to really dictate, to override those external influences and determine the way we think, the way we act, and the results we get, then we tend to live a life that's much more purpose-driven. We're going to have the experience of life that we want to be having. Now, I used to do a lot of work with people in the health and fitness industry, and this was eye-opening for them. Because what we've really explained here is two expressions that I know you've heard before. Have you ever heard the expression self-fulfilling prophecy? Right? So we just defined that. Because if I have a belief that I'm overweight, out of shape, and I don't have time to exercise, I will think a certain way, I will take certain actions, or in this case, maybe not take certain actions, and the results that show up will tend to be in alignment with I'm overweight, out of shape, and don't have time to exercise. If, on the other hand, I think of myself as an athlete, will I think differently? Absolutely, right? Will I act differently? And will the results that show up in my life tend to be very different? Okay, so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the other thing that we've defined here is the term that we started with. Again, you've all heard the expression comfort zone, right? And of all the things I'm going to share with you today, this is probably the ones to make sure that you capture. Write this down. Because what a comfort zone really is, when you are in a comfort zone, is when your beliefs about who you really are match the results that are showing up in your life. And this can be in the area of finance, your income level. If your belief about what your appropriate income level is matching what's showing up in your life, you tend to be in a comfort zone. And there will usually be resistance to change. In terms of health, your body weight, in terms of your relationships, whatever your beliefs about who you are, if they're matching the results, even if it's not what you want, you'll tend to be in a comfort zone. So what a lot of people do, like let's use New Year's resolutions as an example, right? Health and fitness, New Year's resolutions, January 1st, some external influence comes in and says to this person who's overweight and out of shape, says, you know what, you ought to lose some weight. Yeah, I really want to get in better shape. So they think differently, they get an idea. I could join the gym. They take an action, they go and join the gym. They start exercising. They might start losing some weight. They might start seeing results. But where are those people on February 1st? We don't know where they are, we just know where they're not, right? They're not at the gym anymore. And I believe this is the number one reason why that's true. The number one reason why people start an exercise program and quit is because they don't address their own beliefs about who they really are. They're swimming upstream. They're dragging an anchor along with them called I am overweight, out of shape, and I don't have time to exercise. And until they change those beliefs. So what we encourage people to do in my work is to start with that I am belief. To start by declaring, I am worth twice as much money as I am making, or I am my ideal body weight, or I am an athlete, or I deserve to be in a nurturing relationship, whatever it is. Now, pop quiz. If I encourage anyone in this room to do that, to change their belief about who you really are, how many of you talk to yourselves, by the way? Anyone talk to yourselves? Okay. I've learned that there's usually in a room this size about 3 or 4 people who are thinking to themselves, talk to myself? Do I talk to myself? I don't think I talk to myself. But the reality is we all talk to ourselves, right? So if I say to you to make this new declaration, double your income, lose the weight, get into a relationship, whatever it is, what does the mind say? What's the conversation? What's the response? Okay, how? I have 3 kids. My youngest is now 15. When she was younger, she used to say, yeah, right? Right? Because there's that self-doubt. There's you've tried before and failed. You've never been able to do this. What makes you think you can do that? Trying to keep you in your comfort zone. Because the belief that you're declaring about doubling your income or losing the weight or whatever doesn't match the results that are showing up right now, right? Because your income right now is what it is. Your body shape, your weight is what it is right now. So this is you trying to stay in your comfort zone. But here's the beauty of this model in terms of creating lasting change, is that when people are willing to start by declaring a new belief and really connecting to that and recognizing how important it is, and to hold on to that and allow the new ideas, the new thoughts, the new approaches to emerge that will lead them to taking the actions that are necessary to create change, to do things differently at home, at work, whatever it is, and then to allow those new results to show up that'll match the new belief, then we've created a new comfort zone. So you've literally created a result that matches your desired belief, and now you let go of the resistance because you've created a new comfort zone. Does that make sense? And again, it works in any area of your life. And again, if you look at this in the context of your teams, it can work in groups just as much as with individuals. Some of the conflict and issues and turbulence that shows up amongst teams is because we have all these different perceptions of who we really are. And when the team gets really clear about a shared vision and purpose and stays clear about that, it's much easier to go through this whole process of ideas and actions and results. Okay? So again, what I coach people to do is start in that lower left-hand corner with I am, our beliefs about who we really are. And my work is really focused in that area. I mentioned that I have this book. I also have a partner journal. And when I was halfway through writing the book, I created this journal because, like I told you guys at the beginning, I'm passionate about people implementing what I teach. How many of you have heard the term shelf help? Ever heard that? I don't want my book to become shelf help, which means people buy it with the best of intentions, they go home and they put it on the shelf and they never read it. That doesn't do anyone any good. So the journal is a way for people to implement the approach. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to show you what that approach is, the 5-step approach that I teach people to lead more of the kind of life that they really want to be leading. And we're going to go through 5 simple steps. So the first question that I teach, that I use, and this is the connection from the previous model, is the question, who am I? Who am I? Now, if we were to walk out on campus here and just start asking people, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? What kind of answers do you think would come up for people? Job title, right? Their name. Okay? It's usually the roles we play. Okay? And that is one area of who we really are, the roles that we play. But I believe this is really more how we express who we really are. In my book and in the journal, we look at the question, who am I, from 4 different points of view. The first is our roles. The second is our skills and talents, the things that we're really good at, we tend to identify with. The third is what we call contribution. And this is one of the really powerful elements, when we really are connected to our sense of contribution, what we're here to do, how we can improve other people's lives as well as ours. We get a strong sense of who we are. And then the third, or the fourth part rather, is what we call core self. Who we are beyond this human experience, beyond the body, the car we drive, the clothes we wear, the thoughts we think, all that. Who are we? And it's really quite profound when people connect at a deep level to a sense of who we really are. So I invite you, again, I do a 2.5-day weekend workshop, and we spend a whole day on this question, who am I? We have an hour today. So there's not that much we can really do with it. But I invite you in this moment to just ask yourself that question, who am I? If we had more time, I'd actually partner you guys up and have you sit across from someone and ask the question, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Over and over again for about a minute to a minute and a half. And the experience for most people is the first thing that comes up is what you guys said. It's the roles. It's the things we do. But when someone keeps asking, and you have to keep coming up with different answers, we tend to go deeper, tend to connect to who we really are, what's most important to us. Things like the contribution that we really want to make. One of the things I've loved about looking at this company is that I know that's a really important part of your culture. Making a contribution, doing something worthwhile, impacting other people's lives. I would imagine most of you come to work on a daily basis knowing that you're doing something much bigger than what your day-to-day responsibilities are. And that's what we mean by really being connected to that sense of who am I. And it's also what I mean by how it affects organizations as well as individuals. So who am I? So this second question is a little more straightforward. It's called, what am I intending to attract? And I kind of asked you guys this question at the beginning of the presentation today. What are you intending to attract? What is the result that you want to create? And what I'm going to ask you to do is, a lot of you don't have something to write with, but if you can, write it down. And in this moment, declare an intention. Declare a desired result, a specific and measurable result. And just think for a minute about what that would be. What are you intending to attract? It could be something personal, it could be something professional, it could be health related, it could be relationship related, whatever it is. In your mind or on paper, declare your intention. And I invite you, as you do that, to kind of peek back over your shoulder at the first question we looked at and ask yourself, is that intention in alignment with who you really are? The approach I teach is to get people to be really clear about their intentions, but also to really know that those intentions are in alignment with who they really are. Because that's a very powerful place to act from. Does everyone have something in mind? Okay. So how many of you would be willing to share your intention with the group? Even if you might get a free book? No, I'm kidding. All right. Oh, another hand popped up back there. Here we go. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you to share your intention. But what I am going to do, I want to ask for some feedback from those of you who didn't raise your hand. Okay? And remember I asked you how many of you talk to yourselves? Right? And you all pretty much raised your hand. We all talk to ourselves. When I said how many of you would like to share your intention, would be willing to share your intention, something happened there. A conversation started, right? And I'd just like to hear some examples of what you told yourself that said, no, don't raise your hand. What was your reason for not raising your hand and sharing your intention? And there's no right or wrong or good or bad answers. I just want to get a sense of what kind of things come up for people. You wanted to hear what other people had to say, okay?
Intention gets really long, really quickly.
Okay, so it got kind of long-winded, okay?
It only gonna make sense to myself. It was an inner thought. That
Okay.
didn't make sense about me.
So it's only going to make sense to you versus the group, all right?
Just too revealing.
Too revealing, too personal, okay? Anything else?
A little bit shameful as well.
What's that?
A little bit shameful.
A little bit of shame about the choice that you made. Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. First of all, I'm going to teach you a little bit of a facilitation technique because I'm about to let total control of the room go to you guys instead of me. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to stand up and get a partner. But before we do that, I want to teach you a little technique. And you're going to be talking amongst yourselves. And in order for me to get control of the room back and keep us moving forward and finish on time, I'm going to raise my hand at one point. Okay? And when I raise my hand, if you see my hand go up, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand as well. And when you raise your hand, you're going to pretend like there's a string attached to your hand and your jaw. Okay? So when your hand goes up, your jaw shuts and you stop talking. Right? So this is just a way, you guys are going to be talking amongst yourselves for just a minute, and it's a way for us to just bring the attention back to the front of the room. Okay? So let's try that. Go ahead and just turn to the person next to you or the person behind you and just talk to them about anything, what you're having for lunch, whatever it might be. When you see my hand go up, all right, very good. All right, so I'm going to ask everyone to stand up. And find yourself a partner and sit down facing your partner. The reason I ask you to stand up first is for those of you who are in between, you know, like this person goes that way for a partner, this person goes that way, and you're standing there alone. Once you have your partner, sit down facing your partner is going to make it really easy for the people who don't yet have a partner to find somebody. So just sit down facing your partner. You guys are good, very good. Okay, so I need to, let's see, in each partnership I need you to figure out who has the longest hair. Person who has the longest hair. If it's the exact same length, it would be the darkest color that we'll go with. And that person is going to go first. And what you're going to do is for 1 minute, you're going to share whatever it is you're comfortable about your intention. What came to mind for you? And if you don't want to, you know, if it's something really personal, you don't want to go all the way into depth about it, you can give kind of an overview. But just and I'm only going to give you like 45 seconds, just share with your partner about what came up for you when you declared that intention. Okay? So person with the longest or darkest hair is going to go first. You have 45 seconds. Go ahead and begin. Okay, I totally looked at the wrong number on my clock, and I have no idea how much time that actually was, but it feels like about 45 seconds. So we're going to switch roles now, and if you were listening, you're going to be sharing. If you were sharing, you're going to be listening. This time it really will be 45 seconds. Go ahead and begin. Okay, great. Thank you. Now, I want to hear from a couple people, especially those of you who didn't raise your hand, which is the vast majority of the room, so that won't be a problem. But how did it feel to share your intention or a part of your intention, something about your intention with someone else? How did that, well, first of all, everyone okay? Everyone all right? We all survived that? All right, good. All right. How did that feel? How did that work? What happened?
Felt better one-on-one, also just get time to explain yourselves.
Okay, so it felt better one-on-one. You had a little chance to explain it. Okay. What else?
I think I realized how many things are connected to my intention. It's not really, you think it's just about work, it's really not. It's really, there's so many other factors.
Okay, so you gain clarity about your intention by sharing it with, well, a broader perspective though. You realized more about it.
A lot of factors, yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Love sharing personal thoughts with total strangers.
You love sharing personal thoughts with total strangers. All right, we'll work on that later. Perfect. It was what?
Good to go second after hearing you.
Good to go second. Why was it good to go second?
I just felt like we more accepted and
Okay, so he survived. It was okay for him. Yep. No, it's a good point because once we have the chance to kind of see how we respond to someone else, we can imagine maybe they'll respond the same way, right?
I realize other people have the same issues and concerns.
Realize other people have the same kind of issues that I do. They want the same kind of thing. How many of you had that experience where you realized there was some similarity of intention, right? Okay, so again, we could take sharing, we could do a full hour just on this, but I asked you to do that because I actually thought it might be different today. Every time I think it might be different. This is Google. These guys are all going to raise their hands. They're all going to want to share. But there's something that tells us it's not okay to share. Now, should you share your most important, your most personal intentions with everyone? No, absolutely not. But aren't we all surrounded by like-minded, supportive, encouraging people somewhere in our life? And if we're willing to share our goals, our intentions, our desires, our dreams, we can get help. Did anyone find that the person you shared with said, I could help you with that? Did that show up anywhere? Well, that just blasts my whole theory about Google right there. Come on. All right. But that can help. Really good listeners. Okay. You guys really follow instructions well. That's great. But you get a sense of it's okay, right, to stick your toe in the water, to share with one person. And granted, I asked you to do something that was a much bigger stretch, to stand up in front of the whole group and share. That's a different question than just sharing with one person. But you have the experience. Most people aren't willing to share even with one person. So I want to give you the experience of what it's like to share that intention, to anchor it in more deeply, to get more clear about how important it is to you, and hopefully get a clearer vision, get clarification and feedback from someone, get support and help, whatever it might be. Okay? So that's our intentions. The third question of the approach that I teach, after we look at setting our intention and making sure that intention is in alignment with who we really are, is to ask the question, how will I feel? How will I feel? And when we look at manifestation, when we look at creating new results in our life, we look at things like the law of attraction, I believe this question about feeling and emotion is really the language of all of this work. That when we connect deeply to the feelings and emotions we most want to experience, we start attracting more of that into our life. I work with people all the time, and they've got like a pocket full of 3x5 cards with their visualizations, their affirmations. They've got them all written down. They'll come up to me and they'll go, I heard this guy Jack Canfield speak, or I read your book, or whatever, and I know I've been doing my visualizations, my affirmations every single day, and this stuff doesn't work. And I'm thinking to myself, what's the feeling and emotion that this person is experiencing? There's anger, there's resentment, there's fear, there's doubt, there's worry. And I believe that person is sending a message to the universe saying, please send me more anxiety, fear, doubt, worry, pain, all of that. Because that's the feeling and emotion that they're experiencing. So of all these questions that I teach as part of the journal, how will I feel is the simplest one. But I believe it's the most powerful one. When we really connect to the feeling and emotion of what it will be like to earn more money, to be our ideal body weight, to be in the perfect relationship, how will that feel? To me, that's what really gets the wheels moving. I'd love to spend more time on that, but, okay. The fourth question, the fourth step that we look at is called letting go of attachments. How many of you would agree that we have a tendency to make things more difficult than they need to be? Anyone else, or is that just me? Okay. So attachments is how we do that. Attachments, the way I define it, is any way that we're using our attention, our thinking, our beliefs, in ways that are not supporting us. This is things like needing to figure out how to do it ourselves, needing to figure out all the steps before we get started, needing it to happen now, being worried about what other people might think, judgment of other people or judgment of ourselves. These are all ways that we can use our attention that don't serve us, that are slowing us down rather than speeding us up. So part of my work is about, first of all, identifying what those attachments are, and second of all, looking at ways that we can let go of those attachments. There's some amazingly powerful resources out there to help us to recognize what the attachments are that are getting in our way and ways to let go. Again, in an hour today, we don't have time to really go into depth on that, but when you start recognizing and being aware of what your own attachments are, what are the things that are getting in your way, and get better at letting go of those, it's amazing how you can accelerate your results. One thing that I do in my work that's a little bit unique in terms of this area of letting go of attachments is this is where we focus in on gratitude and appreciation. I believe that gratitude and appreciation, first of all, it's kind of a nice bridge from the feeling step into this look at attachments. But sometimes when people set a goal and they realize that it's really in alignment with who they are, they connect to the feeling and emotion of how they really want to be experiencing life, and they know that this goal is perfect for that, they can get to the point where they really need it. Like, I need it to happen. Like, it's so important. My life won't be complete unless I have it. And I believe gratitude and appreciation is the way to stay out of that trap, because we really don't need it. Our lives, everyone in this room, our lives are amazing right now. And if we pause and allow ourselves just to be grateful for the blessings that we have now, the friends, the family, the opportunities, where we live, this amazing company that you're working for, this environment here is just so remarkable. When we pause and allow ourselves to be grateful, we can settle into a state that I call high intention and low attachment. High intention, clarity, focus, certainty about what you're working on achieving, but low attachment. I don't need this. My life is amazing just as it is. And when you really settle into that state, it's amazing how powerful we can be. How many of you ever dealt with a salesperson who needed to make the sale? Anyone? Okay. And how many of you have dealt with a salesperson who was so passionate about what they do, so unattached, they were just so passionate about what they do that you bought something from them that you didn't even need, right? That's the difference that I'm talking about. High intention, clarity, focus, on purpose, but non-attached. And then finally, the fifth step that we teach is called taking inspired action, which brings us back to that 4-part model. No new result is going to be showing up without taking action. But the difference is, with this kind of approach, with asking ourselves these kinds of questions, we're taking action from a different place, from a different point of view. I tell people what most people are doing out there when they get around this kind of goal setting, personal development kind of work is they're looking at step number 2, they set a goal, and then they skip right ahead to step number 5, take action, right? And these are the people that are working hard, lots of effort, willpower, no matter what, I'm going to do it. And they may be getting results, but in terms of the experience that I talked about, they're rarely having the experience that they want to be having. And they're rarely getting results that really last. So I encourage people to take a look at the difference. Like, what would the difference be if I really was clear about who I am, if I was connected to the feelings and emotions that I most want to experience, and if I had increased my awareness of and ability to let go of the attachments before I take action? And how different would that be? So I had one other piece. Oh, we have time. Cool. Thought we were out of time. All right, so when I get into inspired action, I rarely have people go, action? That's bogus. I just want to sit on the couch and meditate. I don't want to take action. People know they need to take action. So I want to share with you something. Does everyone have something to write on? All right, so I'm going to ask you to take a piece of paper and a pen or pencil and be ready to write, because I'm going to have you do an exercise related to multitasking. Now, how many of you, personally or professionally, are put in a position where you feel like you need to periodically multitask? Anyone? Okay. So how many of you consider yourself to be really good multitaskers? Anyone in the room think you're a really good multitasker? A couple of them. Okay. So I'm going to give you a point of view about multitasking. I'm going to ask you to write out a sentence in a minute. And this is the sentence. All right. Now, everyone always wants to cheat, so I can't really see very well, but you're going to have to wait till I say go. Okay? I'm going to ask you in a minute to write this sentence out, but to do it in a very unique way. You're going to write it one letter at a time, and then after you write the letter, you're going to write a number below it. It's going to go just like this. You're going to start with the letter M, and then below it, you're going to write the number 1. Then you're going to go back up to the letters and write U, and go down and write 2. L, 3, T, 4. I hope that's as far as I went. Yes. Okay. So you see how that works? Letter, number, letter, number. And I'm going to time you. Okay? And when you're done, you're going to, don't start yet. There's always people who want to cheat. Okay? When you're done, you're going to stand up. And I will tell you how long it took. So keep track of how long it took. Okay? So you all ready? Don't start yet. Don't start till I say go. Oh, I saw that. All right. All right, so ready? Go. 31. 35. Remember how long it took you. 40. 44. 51, 53, 55, 57, 59. Okay, so if you didn't finish, go ahead and just notice how far you got in 1 minute. Okay, so just make a note of how far you got, and everyone else can sit down. Okay? Now I'm just curious, how many of you are doing this on a phone or a computer? That's so cool. All right. That's a first for me. I'll share that with all the other groups I do this with. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to do it differently. Okay, same task, but you're going to do it differently. And again, don't start till I say go. I'm going to time you again. Anybody notice the level of anxiety that started to show up when other people finished ahead of you? Huh? Right back to second grade, right? Okay, so this time you're going to do it the same thing. You're going to write all the letters and then all the numbers. And this time you're going to write the letters first. Write the whole sentence from start to finish. And then you're going to write, there's actually 27 numbers. So you're going to go from 1 to 27. Don't start yet. I see those pens come up. All right, so when I say go, you're going to write the whole sentence, and then the numbers 1 to 27. Same thing, stand up when you're done. Ready? Go. Stay standing. 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, so again, if you didn't finish, notice how far you got in 30 seconds. Okay, so have a seat. So what was the difference between the two? What's that? How many of you, by show of hands, how many of you got further the second time? Okay. So, and what was the experience like the first time? What was the experience like of doing one, then the other, then going back and forth? Frustrating. Someone else up here said frustrating. What other?
I noticed there was a mental jar as soon as I got to the 2-digit numbers.
A mental jar when, okay, there's so a little something different. You got to 2-digit numbers and that threw you off a little bit. Okay. All right. So kind of like the corks, you know, this particular task won't take you very far in life, but the experience, the physiological experience of realizing what it's like to go back and forth from one task to the other versus making a commitment to start at the beginning and finish a task before you move on to the other is an amazing productivity tool, an amazing way to get more done in a realistic amount of time. And for people, and I'm one of them, I still get pulled into multitasking, you know, I teach this stuff, but anytime you're checking your email while you're on a phone call, this is exactly what you're doing. This exercise comes from someone named Dave Crenshaw, who wrote a book called The Myth of Multitasking. And he says there's no such thing as multitasking. There's only switch tasking, switching back and forth. And it wears you out, it exhausts you. I skipped over a step of this, which is if I'd let you all go to the end and I took a little poll about how many numbers there actually were, I probably would have gotten 25s, 26s, 28s, 29s, because when you're going fast and trying to do it, it affects your accuracy as well. So the degree to which you're able to commit blocks of time, finish something, start to finish, is the degree to which your productivity will really go up. It'll help you get more of the inspired actions done. Okay, so we're pretty much where we need to be. We're right at the top of the hour, and I wish I could be here all day, all afternoon. But I'm going to finish with a couple of questions for you. First of all, as we look at the 5 steps, as the questions, who am I, what am I intending to attract, how will I feel, letting go of attachments, and inspired action. And as we look at those 4 things I pointed out that we need to be willing to do in order to achieve mastery, the 4 steps of trying something new, asking for help, being willing to be uncomfortable, and being willing to be persistent, my question for you is, what's most important for you to focus on? Now that's 9 different things, 5 steps and 4 things that you need to do. For everyone in this room, there's an area to zero in on. You know, for some people, it might really be getting clear about your purpose. For other people, it might just be about taking more action. For someone else, it might be that just being willing to be uncomfortable. But again, I want everyone to leave here with something clear and concrete that you know you can focus on, that you can do, that you can even work on and focus on for the rest of your day today, and say, I would be willing to, you know, again, not multitask for the rest of the day, or get clear, take 10 minutes and really get clear about that question, who am I, whatever it is. But for you, out of those 9 questions, what is most important for you? And the other question I would leave you with is, what if? What if you led your life from more of a place of clarity about who you really are, what your intentions are, more of a connection to those feelings and emotions you most want to experience? if you were more aware of the attachments that get in your way and more able to let go of those attachments, and if you were taking more inspired action, what would be different? How would things be different? And the same thing with those mastery questions. I will support you, help you in any way I can. As you're looking at that one thing, as you're considering what that one thing is that you'll focus on, Rachel and her department actually very graciously purchased 25 of my books to share with those of you who are here in the room. So if you're willing to come up to Rachel and just share with her what you're going to focus on, what is that one thing that you're going to focus on? What's one thing you took from this conversation today that you feel like you can implement? She's going to give you a free copy of my book. Now, don't climb all over each other in order to get those, but anyway. The other thing I have here is I have copies of the journal. If you're interested in using the journal and the book together to implement this approach, to try it out yourself, the journals are normally $19.95. You can get them for $10 here today. For anyone who's watching online, who's not in the room, there's a website called manifestingbook.com. It's on the slide. And if you click on the image of the book at that page, manifestingbook.com, you'll get an offer for a book and a journal. The books are normally $15, the journals are $20. You'll get the book and the journal together, signed from my office for $20 if you click on that link. So I'm available to help in any way I can. Would love to stay connected and support you in any way I can. That's one way. I wish I had time to tell that story, but I don't. I'm going to finish on time. I don't know, do we have time to take a couple of questions, or if people have them?
So one thing I've noticed when trying to multitask is that it's a lot harder to do two verbal tasks, like talking with someone and reading, versus like talking with someone and driving or playing a video game. I was wondering if there's any scientific basis for that, if there's sort of like a language part of the brain.
I don't know the science behind it, but I would totally agree with you. You know, and I think it kind of depends on how you define multitasking. You know, I'm definitely that guy who's going to put a load of laundry in and have that laundry washing itself while I'm working on something. I'm definitely that guy who's listening to something on tape while I'm driving, because I don't want to just be wasting my time listening to sports talk radio or whatever it might be. So there's elements of kind of complementary activities. And I think you bring up a really good point. If we're using the same area of our brain, if we're using the same kind of communication skills, if we're trying to carry on one conversation at the same time we're carrying on another conversation, that's the stuff that's really going to drive us crazy. And not being a smart aleck, but if I was speaking somewhere else and someone asked that question and they were really interested in the research, where do you think I'd tell them to go? I mean, it's all accessible. I think one of the most amazing things about the world we live in right now, and this is part of the reason I titled my book Manifesting for Non-Gurus, is we don't need gurus anymore. We all have access to all the information we could possibly need and then some, and we can indeed create the lives that we really want to live.
Do you have a formula for multitasking better? Like I've heard something like 60-40-20, like doing something for 60 minutes, then another priority for 40 minutes, and taking a break for 20.
Yeah.
Is there something that you found is maybe better than that?
So I'm glad you clarified the question, because the answer to is there a way to multitask better, that's an easy question called no. Because again, there's no such thing as multitasking. But you bring up a good point. The research that I've seen says no more than 50 minutes to really expect yourself to be focused on any given task. And then we need to get up, we need to walk around, we need to take a breath. We need 10 minutes of a little bit of a break before we come back to whatever it is we're working on. But most people don't even give themselves that kind of block of time. I'm talking about, the phone is off, the door is closed, everything is shut down, so you're totally focused on something for 50 minutes. It's amazing how much you can get done if you do that. If you try to do that for 2 hours, the mind can't keep up. You can't do that. So 50 minutes and then take a break and then come back is the number that I've seen. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.